Welcome to this episode of the Building Texas Show. I'm excited to be in Fair Oaks Ranch, Texas, just outside of San Antonio, talking to a multi-business owner that is opening up Monkees of Fair Oaks. Kelli, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Justin, for having me.
Well, we've gotten to know each other in some of our work together, but I am really excited about what you're bringing to the Texas Hill Country, to the Boerne Fair Oaks region. And I think it's a little bit different than what I've seen elsewhere. And so I wanted to talk to you about it and just better understand it and then promote Lemon Creek a little bit as an up and coming area in our Fair Oaks Boerne neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I think you know this, but our listeners don't know this. We moved back to Texas about a year ago. I'm a native Texan, grew up all over the state, went to A&M, and then after I graduated from A&M, I up and left for DC. And I spent almost 20 years in DC, met my husband there. He's a military officer. But I wanted to come home to Texas. So we moved back last summer, built a house after we shipped a kid off to college. And I was still going back and forth to DC for my job then. And I was getting a little bit frustrated because anytime I needed work clothes, I needed a pair of shoes, I needed a blazer, whatever it was, there was really nothing in our immediate area that was compelling for me personally. So I was ending up driving into Cantera, which we all know is a bit of a disaster. And anytime I have to get around 1604, I think I get a little bit of hives knowing I'm going in that direction. But it was a little bit frustrating for me. And ultimately, when I decided to quit commuting back and forth to DC and just focus our entire life here, it was really apparent to me that we had a fairly substantive gap in the market. If you wanted to wear contemporary designers, there was nowhere to get it in this area. Had to go into San Antonio to La Cantera or some of the other specialty boutiques like Julian Gold. That's a 45-minute drive. And so,
Right.
being a businesswoman, seeing the gap in the market, hearing from other women that they saw the same gap, they had the same frustrations, I decided that I was finally going to pull the trigger on what I had considered sort of like a bucket list career pathway for myself. And so I walked into my first Monkees 8 years ago. And I was really enamored with the fact that this locally owned boutique in Raleigh, North Carolina had really big brand names. And I thought to
Right.
myself, how does a small boutique, right? Because our footprint is generally small. My store is a little over 1,200 square feet, but I would say, generally speaking, most of the Monkees across the country are small. So, how does this small, locally owned boutique pull some of these huge brands? So, that's when I started researching it. And I found out that Monkees is a franchise based out of North Carolina. Monkees of Fair Oaks will be number 8 in the state of Texas and probably around store number 67 across the country. But because we're a franchise, the buying power that the collective franchisees have is fairly significant. I just came back from New York City and I was with some of the biggest contemporary brands in the country. And it's amazing that someone like myself, who my store's not even open yet, we're opening August 20th, I'm able to walk into the Farm Rio showroom in Manhattan and buy for 2027. So that was a great experience. But really, without that buying power, none of this would be possible. So when I knew I wanted to open a boutique as a lifelong fashionista, I knew if I wanted to go that direction, if I wanted to cultivate the brands that I have grown to love myself, it would need to be with an organization like Monkees.
How has the franchise process been? Because that's interesting. And I like that it's store number roughly 67. It's still an up and coming franchise. You're early in that process, it sounds like. What's that journey been like?
Sure. So started off, you go on to, I think it's ownamonkeys.com, and you fill out some paperwork and it goes into the ether, right? A week later, the vice president of franchising, Pete Green, called me. We had a wonderful conversation. And week after that, I got paperwork. Hey, tell us everything about yourself. They want to know all about your finances. And work history and things of that nature. We filled out that. And then right before Thanksgiving, Pete called and said, "We'd like to invite you to what's called Discovery Day." So that involved my husband and I flying to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the first week of December last year, and we met with the founders and essentially spent the entire day with monkeys doing what I would call a reverse due diligence, right? They're trying to learn
Yeah.
about us as potential owners, and we're trying to learn about them as potential franchisees. So, spend a day with them, ask a lot of questions, great dialogue, really kind of understanding where the store's been, where they're going, what their goals and aspirations are as a franchise, understanding how they help all of us as new store owners, kind of get this ball rolling and then meet the team that makes all of that a reality. And then a week after that, Pete called and said, they loved you guys and we want to invite you into the Monkeys family. But I wasn't even at that point, I still wasn't 100% committed to signing because my primary concern was location. And I knew that
Right.
if we couldn't find the right location, that being a monkeys wouldn't really matter because the great location either makes you or breaks you. And we had already been spending quite a bit of time investigating what was available both in Kendall County and in Bexar County. And everything just kept coming back to Lemon Creek Ranch, which is still relatively new, right? There's a couple of developments, but what they have planned for the future is pretty amazing. And
Right.
we looked and we looked, and I spent more time driving up and down I-10 than I could have possibly wanted. Monkeys, back office team, spent a ton of time researching the area, and all signs pointed to Lemon Creek Ranch, but it would require me to do a full build out. In the industry terms, I'm walking into a cold, dark shell, meaning I have a concrete floor and that's it. And that's a fairly significant expenditure. And frankly, I wasn't sure I
Yeah.
wanted to do that. But in talking with some of the other store owners, they just kept emphasizing that great location is paramount. So don't worry about, the upfront build out cost. I mean, obviously you have to factor that into your business projections, but you really need to be more focused on the location. And Lemon Creek, if you haven't been there, it's got solid ingress, egress, great parking. So you can just drive right up to the store, park, and walk in. And I thought that was really, really important to me because I've been shopping in some of the other places around the area, having to either, make an exit, drive a mile, make a U-turn, come back around, or going into locations that didn't have any parking. I'm the kind of person that if I am trying to go somewhere and there's nowhere to park, I'll just leave. Like it's not that important to me.
Right.
So I didn't want anybody to have those feelings that they couldn't easily access us. So that was really important. And I think Lemon Creek Ranch is great where it's at now, but it's only going to continue to get better over time. So in my mind, this was strategic positioning for us.
It's definitely a long-term opportunity because what they're going to do in that development anchored with an HEB and exits off of I-10, it's ideal because you avoid the traffic.
Hmm.
And in a small town in rural Texas, we've seen that traffic really explode with growth. And so I like your position and your location. It is Bexar County. That's a little bit different.
It
Um,
is.
but I think it's allowing you to move quicker and really get working with a great developer matters. So I think you're in a great place with Lemon Creek.
Yeah, I think so too. Valcor has been really great to work with. That's our landlord. And just in terms of, you mentioned speed, it's a little bit faster. From the time the files were submitted to Bexar County, and by the time we had a permit to get started was 72 hours. I think
That's incredible.
that's pretty unheard of. So, yeah.
Well, you open August 20th, and that's just in time for the school year. But let's talk about who are your customers. I've seen on the website. I mean, it's women of all ages, is what I understood.
Absolutely. I have a sneaking suspicion I know who our general, target customer is going to be, but the way we've built the store is there's something for everybody. So I've actually been going through interviews for personnel for the store, and it's really funny, just depending on what age bracket you're in, to hear what people are gravitating towards. So, some of the younger kids are really excited that we're carrying Aviator Nation, right? That's largely a sweat company out of Malibu, California. They have these really brightly colored hoodies and sweatpants, and they even have swimwear as well. So all the high school age girls that I've met with are just over the moon that we have Aviator Nation. On the flip side, women my age and maybe even a little bit older are excited about some of the denim brands that we're carrying, some of the dresses that will carry really household brands, right? We've got Paige Denim Frame as some of our primary. We've got great companies like Millie and Shoshana and Marie Oliver. So you can go from day to night, right? If you want to wear a basic top and a pair of denim and sneakers during the day, but then you have an event in the evening and you need to put on a cocktail dress, we're your one stop shop to be able to do all of that. So I've mentioned, on our social media, some of the top brands that we're carrying, and that's really just to show people the differentiation between us and some of the other locations around here that don't have those contemporary designers. But there's a whole lot of other designers too that people have never heard of that will actually carry in the store at a wide variety of price points. In fact, one of those brands came to my house this morning to show me merchandise that's coming out late this fall for holiday and then into January of 27. So the rep drove down from Dallas. She pulled up to the house and we just started rolling racks of clothes in, and I started picking pieces out for the future. So you've probably never heard of that brand, but I have a feeling once we get you into the store, because you came for Paige Denim, which is kind of a cult classic, you're going to discover other brands as well that you've never heard of, but I think you're going to love just as much.
Well, that sounds like a fun way to spend your work morning, having racks of clothes pulled in like your personal shopping.
That's exactly what it was, personal shopping. So great experience. It's unique to have somebody come to your house, but when she called me to say, "Hey, I'm your rep. I live in Dallas," she said, "You probably don't have a store yet for me to come to." I said, "That's right. I don't have a store yet for you to come to, and if we go to the store, we're going to end up covered in dust. So if you're willing, you can just come to my house." And she said, "I'd love to come to your house." So that's what we did.
Now, we're in Military City, USA in San Antonio, and you've talked about your work in DC, but your family has a military background. And I think that's an important part of the ethos of what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Justin and I actually worked together in some other capacities as well, but spent 20 years in DC and government contracting. So, I have been focused on customers such as special operations and the intelligence community for the past 20 years. I own a consulting business as well that helps private companies learn how to navigate doing business with special operations, getting them into the Central Intelligence Agency for their first contract. And my husband is an Army Reserve officer. Interestingly enough, he's back on active duty right now. And we'll see how long he stays on active duty. He's technically eligible to retire, but we're waiting to hear about a promotion for him. So if he gets promoted, it's probably another 3 years of reserve status. If he doesn't make the promotion, then retirement is in his future. So we are one of the few, I don't think we're the only, but we're one of the few military or veteran owned and operated monkeys in the country. So depending on how long my husband Chris stays on orders, you could see him in the store, or, he might pop in his uniform from time to time while we swap out kids and parenting responsibilities and that sort of thing. But one of the things that we're really excited to bring is a military program for, veterans, military spouses, active duty personnel. So we'll release some additional information on that going forward. But I'm really excited about that. I'm also part of the Junior League of San Antonio, and recently we've established what we're calling the Military Affinity Group. And that group has active duty military personnel in it, it has military spouses, it has retirees, and kind of everybody in between. And I'm really excited to have them to our grand opening for a very special event just for that organization. So very important to us, and one of the causes that you'll continue to see Monkeys of Fair Oaks support for the coming years.
Well, I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap up, but the personal shopping experience, I think you've got some big ideas on what that could look like. How, what is that experience going to be for somebody that comes in the monkeys every day of the week? And is there something else that you would offer as well?
Sure. So I think people are really looking for experiences across the board, whether it's travel, whether it's shopping. I think people are a little bit frustrated with a lack of customer service, not only in the retail industry, but industries writ large. And we want every single person who comes in to feel a very elevated experiential shopping experience. So, having a glass of wine, sitting on the couch, talking to your girlfriends about your events and what's going on in your life and your family, that's going to be something that everyone experiences. We do have opportunities to have private events. So, as of right now, we've got one private event scheduled. Those will happen after hours, after we close to the public. And it's myself and some of my team, and we are just dedicated to you and your friends, bringing you a great experience. And then one of the other things we're doing that I think is unique is we are closed to the public on Sundays, but we are available for appointments. So if you're a busy traveling mom like I used to be, I was gone Monday through Thursday. I might come in on Friday. I have family obligations on Saturday, but I still needed something before I headed out for my next trip. You can call the store, say, hey, I want to come in on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We'll meet you there. And it's just you. It's just you in the store telling us what you need. If you tell us in advance what you're looking for, we'll go ahead and pull some styles for you and wardrobe you from head to toe and get you on your way.
That sounds like a great experience. I struggle going into any kind of clothing store and shopping, and I think it's more of a male issue. But
I would
having
actually
the
I actually
experience
didn't
of,
agree with you on that, Justin.
oh, good.
I think a lot of women, and myself in particular, at certain times in my life, have really struggled with what to wear, what looks best on me, what makes me feel good, right? I've
Right.
had a couple of kids, and that season after, we have children is very difficult for women. And I used to dread, going to events or things like that simply because I didn't know what to wear. Nothing was fitting properly, and I know that a lot of women feel that way, and they really just need someone to say, "Hey, you're beautiful. That looks good on you, but I think we can actually do better. I think we can make you feel amazing and have that come through in your personality and your behavior when you walk into an event. Because when you look good, you feel good, and that projects out." So, they say that the clothes make the woman, but really it's the woman makes the clothes.
Well, I appreciate that because it is something that we don't talk about. And it sounds like you're going to have an experience where somebody can come in and get some help, get some guidance, have an opinion, have somebody to bounce ideas off of. And that's just a great experience in any kind of store that you walk into, to your point about people looking for customer service and that experience.
It is my solemn vow to you that I will never let you leave Monkeys of Fair Oaks in something that doesn't look phenomenal on you. I promise.
There you go. Well, what is a lesson learned from franchising? And we'll wrap up on that conversation. But franchising is an opportunity. It's a
Mhm.
different form of business ownership. But what have you learned through this process that would be like your one aha or takeaway?
So, for an entrepreneur, a franchise in many instances can be business ownership with some guardrails and training wheels. So I've been
Right.
in retail in a past life. I managed a very large White House black market in the Dallas area right after college, number of other retail jobs early on in my career, but I never opened a women's store. I don't know what to buy, how much to buy, when to start getting inventory shipped in for a grand opening. And I would say that one of the most helpful pieces of all of this has been the back office team at Monkey's headquarters that's guided us through this process. And sometimes, especially in fashion, we we're emotional about it, right? Oh, I have this feeling and it's so beautiful and I love it. And maybe the data doesn't support that, doesn't support those feelings. And so to make business decisions based on data is really important to me. It's what I've done my entire career for
Yeah.
every other job that I've had. So I didn't really look at this one any differently, but to have that buyer help you and say, "Hey, that's good. Let's tiptoe in the water on this particular brand because it could be a little bit risky." So we want to make some safe bets. We want to kind of limit what we bring in. And then if everybody loves it, we can get more. Otherwise, I think we have the tendency to maybe go a little hog wild in terms of what we buy because we just love everything. And it is hard to say no. It's very hard to say no and to walk away from a piece because you personally love it. But that doesn't mean it's for everybody and it doesn't mean it's going to sell well. So to have that support system has been absolutely phenomenal. And I couldn't be more grateful from that perspective.
Where can people find more information? Where do you want them getting the latest and greatest? And then reminding everyone that you open August 20th in Lemon Creek at Lemon Creek Ranches, but they're in Fair Oaks. So
Mhm.
where would people find you online? Where can they get the latest news?
So everything right now is going to our Instagram, which is Monkeys of Fair Oaks. About 30 days prior to the store opening, our website, monkeysofFairOaks.com, will launch. We won't immediately have e-commerce. That will come online in 2027. So we'll be both brick and mortar and online. So everything we have in the store, regardless of where you live, you'll be able to purchase online in early 2027. But everything's going to Instagram right now. And like you said, August 20th, 10 a.m., that is the grand opening. And additional information we'll probably add in, Facebook and TikTok and some of these other platforms, and then the website 30 days out.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, thank you for building Texas the way that you are. We're welcoming you back into the community in Texas, living
Thank
here and launching a business. And it's really exciting to see what you and your family are doing and how you're doing it.
thank you for having me. We're excited too, and hopefully that comes through with everything you're seeing coming out of Monkeys of Fair Oaks.
Awesome. Thank you for enjoying this episode of the Building Texas Show. We release a new episode every week, and you can find us across all social platforms. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you to our sponsor, Chisos Boots, and their damn comfortable cowboy boots.